Chapter 5. Testarossa. Rimuru Pav. We returned to the guild with an overjoyed Natsu. As we entered, as usual, the voices of the members did not fall silent. I looked towards the bar and saw all the members surrounding the Dragon Sisters. They were bombarded with questions about me and Lumi. Where are you from? How strong are you? Are you stronger than Rimuru? Do you have any other siblings? At some point, Urza blew a fuse and she shot them all away from the bar. You guys are pretty popular here. My friendly voice rang out. When the sisters saw me, they blushed slightly and held back from jumping into my arms. You are popular, Nai-san, said Velgrand. Urza approached my ear and whispered into it. You could have quietly told me that has more wives. A calm and threatening voice she had. I whispered back. I'm sorry, but I didn't want to announce it in front of Natsu and Gray. Lumi rubbed her cheek, which drew a beautiful red shade on Urza's face. Maybe you'll meet Love's other wives and concubines too. Ezra was shocked for a moment, but then quickly realized that I was a ruler. I pulled Urza to my chest, and Lumi pulled me to her chest. Velgrand and Velzard would also like to pull me into their arms. Until the evening we talked and listened to the conversations of the other guild members. Afterward we went home, but before that, I sent Velgrand and Velzard back to my world. At the evening table, we discussed our tasks for tomorrow. We will go on a mission with Levy, I explained to her. Ah, I see. But please don't be so ruthless. Don't worry. Lumi's expression said otherwise. We should go to bed, it's late. But I'll tidy up quickly. I said. No, it's my turn today. Urza protested. We had a system set up where you cleaned up for each day. However, because Urza looked so tired, me and Lumi took over today. You're tired, Lumi said as I collected the plates. I'm not. Why do you always do this? You've been cleaning up for the last 3 days when it was my turn. Ezra shouted. For the last 3 days, we always did Urza's work. She protested, but we had always silenced her. However, I ignored her again as I also took her plate and made my way to the sink. Urza stopped me. I'll do it this time, said Ezra. I smiled at her persistence. We wash, you dry? Asked Urza Gavin. Afterwards, we went to bed and Urza snuggled against my chest. On the way back to Magnolia Town, Urza asked me a question she would ask sooner or later. Why do you have so many wives? Lumi giggled slightly, and I thought about how I could best tell her the story. So I told her that 2 of my subordinates put up an ad where you could apply to be my spouse. After a few years, I answered it. The people I cared most about became my wives, and the rest I knew personally became my concubines because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. By the way, Chloe only didn't become my wife because I wanted to keep the fight between her Shuna, Xian and Milam, and also because I don't feel the same love for her as she does. I have the same feelings for her as I do for Urza. Nevertheless, I fulfill her intimate wishes because I don't want her to be sad about it. And some people have trouble even finding one. She sighed. While Lumi couldn't get out of her giggle. Third Pav. Fairy Tale. All was well in Fairy Tale, apart from the fact that there were broken pieces of furniture all over the main hall of the guild. The exploit of a brawl between 2 seemingly like-minded individuals. What did you say? You banshee, shouted Gray. Shut up, you bastard, yelled Natsu as he ran towards Gray. A fist sent Natsu to the ground, while Gray rejoiced at his blow. Jet sighed. I can't believe Rimuru trained Natsu and Gray. Yeah, can you believe it? Those idiots made it to be trained by Rimuru, Droy muttered as he ate some fries. Put me down, you pervert, shouted Natsu as Gray hefted him. Gray slid and landed at Marahan's feet. Marahan blinked. Gray? Where are your clothes? Huh? What the hell? Where are they? Yelled Gray as he magically stood up after all his injuries had healed. Natsu grinned as he held up Gray's pants. Natsu? You bastard. Give them back. Yelled Gray as he ran after Natsu. Meanwhile at Lok's. Sigh, I wish I had a father like Rimuru, the glasses-wearing mage muttered. Oops, why? Asked Kana as she came up and sat next to him. Lok then grinned a sly smile. Because he knows how to handle the ladies. Didn't you see the women swooning over him when he went to the guild with Urza yesterday? Asked Lok. He has that effect on people, just look at Biska, she tried to ask Urza to set her up with Rimuru, explained Kana. He's not interested in that kind of thing, Lok. After all, he already owns a wife. And what about you, my dear Kana? Are you interested in him? Asked a sly Lok. Kana began to stammer and blush. He's nice. That's all. I don't think about him like that. cried Kana. Of course you do, you know what I mean, he has you all like puppets on strings, said Loke. No, he doesn't. He's not like you, said Kana. That's exactly why I'm going to make him my father, I'm going to do that trick, said Loke as he pumped his chest and did a nice guy pose. Kana became embarrassed. Aren't you ashamed at all? Marahan walked up to Jay, Levy and Roy as they talked. Oh. Mira-san, exclaimed a joyful Levy. Marahan smiled as she walked up to her and handed her a note. The master sent this for you, Marahan said as she handed Levy a note. Jay and Roy watched curiously as Levy read the note. Levy squeaked. I'm going on a job with Rimuru and Luminous. A happy Levy exclaimed as she waved the note in the air. All the female members of the guild watched with jealousy in their eyes. You better not keep them waiting, they don't have time for weaklings like you, came Laxu's voice from the second floor. Levy looked crestfallen as Marahan glared at Laxus. Laxus? Shut up, shouted Natsu. They are not like you. Heh, sooner or later they will show their true colors, the weak shall not consort with the strong, that's a rule, chuckled Laxus. Gray then approached Levy. Levy, don't mind him, he's too arrogant, you won't bother them. Indeed, you won't, came a voice. Rimuru Pav. All the guild members fell silent as they watched their strongest mages enter the guild. Welcome back, Marahan smiled. Has the master returned yet? Asked Urza as she walked towards Marahan. No, he still hasn't come back, but he sent a message to Levy, Marahan said as she then turned to us. The master has commissioned a job for you as well as Levy, smiled Marahan. I am aware of that, I said as I looked up at Laxus and observed his posture. Laxus gritted his teeth as he nervously avoided my gaze. If you are so strong, Laxus, then you are welcome to fight one of my comrades to prove your strength. Hahaha, then I will prove to you all that I am the strongest of the guild. Then everyone goes to the battlefield. We'll be right behind you. All the guild members went out and only Lumi and Urza remained. Who are you going to call love? One of the primordial demons. I put my hand on the floor, and in seconds Testarossa appeared in front of me. She immediately went down on her knees. You don't have to be so formal, Testa. For my husband again and again. She stood up and kissed me briefly. Then Ezra fell into her field of vision. Who is this Lord Rimuru? My and Lumi's daughter Urza. I see, she is really beautiful. Urza blushed. So now let's get to why I called you. There's an uppity douchebag over there by the battlefield, and I want you to show him the hell behind the hell. But without killing him. The typical smile of a primordial demon appeared on her face. Understood, Lord Rimuru. We quickly went to the grandstand while we waited for Testa. And is your comrade coming now? Shouted Laxus. Of course, I answered briefly. A white-haired woman could be seen, her gaze able to freeze the blood of some guild members. While a fearsome grin was drawn on my face and Lumi's face. The battle began. Laxus began to attack Testa with his lightning magic. But her whip alone could block all his attacks without much effort. She played with him for 15 minutes. Until it got on her nerves. I guess she took my words a little too seriously. With Death Streak she wanted to show him the hell behind the hell. She weakened her ability and hit Laxus with it. He won't die, but the agony will be the same. After Testa withdrew, only Laxu's pale face could be seen. The guild members were worried about him. That's enough, Testa. Understood. Don't worry about him, he'll need some time to wake up. They all just nodded. I took him to the infirmary, and when I was back in the main room, the happy chatter in the guild resumed. I went to Lumi and Urza, who smiled happily at me. Testa became the god of the weak members of the guild. Urza, do you want to do a quest with Testa? Gladly. Testa, you take care of Urza while I'm gone. Of course, Lord Rimuru. She whispered the last part inaudibly. Harjan Town, I murmured. The journey there is short, we can return by evening. Then I looked at Levy. We'll go. Levy smiled as she walked behind me and Lumi, waving to the others. Natsu and the others smiled as they saw her off. The journey to Harjan Town was short and uneventful. I asked her what spells she had learned. She explained everything she had mastered to me in minute detail. Luckily, I have sealed to summarize the most important things for me. Then she asked me what our task was. The task was simple, we were to rescue a family member who had been captured by a bandit. We did the job in an hour, with the owner of the job thanking us, giving us jewels and a spell that perfectly matched Levy's magic. After the job was done, we went to a luxurious restaurant. After me and Lumi ordered something, I asked Levy why she didn't order anything. She felt guilty because the food was very expensive. After a bit of talking, she ordered something too. Then we left town when we were only 2 kilometers from the town of Magnolia. I asked the carriage driver to drop us off here. Levy looked confused but followed what I had said. We went to a clearing where we were undisturbed. Makarov-sama asked me to help you improve your skills, I said, folding my arms in front of my chest. With this book, we received from the order prayer. Can you expand your skill repertoire? But before we start, I want you to show me everything you can do, I said and sat down with Lumi. Hi, muttered Levy as she then began the various spells. She was nervous about my look, yet she showed me 3 spells. At the same time, Seal read the book for me. Good, it looks like you have mastered 3 spells. Now I will teach you 3 more, I explained. 3 more? Asked a nervous Levy. Forget your worries, I chose these 3 when I read through this book, they are relatively easy to learn, but I'll leave it to you to master them. I continued. Hi. Rimuru-san. Said Levy. She mastered all 3 quite quickly and performed all 6 again at the end. I was satisfied as I then gave her the book and her share of the money for the mission and asked her to learn spells that suited her. Levy nodded as we made our way back to Fairy Tale. Thank you Rimuru for teaching Laxus a lesson. He always steps on the weaker members. No problem, and even if you are not among the strongest, using your skills at the right moment can give you victory. Take these words to heart, Lumi added. Hi. Chapter 6. New Search. Rimuru watched as the members of the guild enjoyed themselves. Makarov had suggested that the guild go on a little excursion. And so they headed north to a lush land. 2 years had passed and the members of Fairy Tale had grown in body, mind and skill under the watchful eye of their master and the strongest members. New bonds were forged and others broke, a death in the family, a sadness beyond compare. Rimuru regretted not accompanying Marahin and her siblings. He had been a moment late and had watched Marahin nurse her tears on him. Luminous, meanwhile, had tried to revive Lasana. It didn't work though, as Seal later explained, her soul and body had gone to another world. Luminous and Urza did not help him feel the same emotions as when the Falmus kingdom attacked. Still, good things happened too. Laxus now respected Rimuru as his superior and began to treat the members of the guild like his family. And now they were sitting on a picnic blanket, enjoying one of the rare beautiful moments of the last few years. Grey and Natsu were fighting each other and showing the results of their training with the Dragon Sisters. Yosh! I beat Grey, who's next now? Urza. Fight me! Shouted Natsu, pointing at Urza. She grinned and Luminous her arms and pointed at Rimuru. You should showcase the fruits of your training against a superior opponent. Finally, I've been waiting for this day. It wasn't about defeating Gildarts, not even Laxus. The one I wanted to defeat from the beginning wasn't Urza, it was you, Rimuru, Natsu muttered. Then show me your skills, Natsu. He put on the mask of Shizu. Natsu stood there in his typical fighting stance. Ready? The wind blew across the field where the fight was taking place, and Rimuru's hair blew, as did Natsu's hair, as he smiled. Happy watched nervously. Begin. Natsu leapt into the air, yelling Fire Dragon Fist. As he leapt towards Rimuru. Boom. An explosion rocked the area as everyone scrambled to safety from the impact. When the dust settled, everyone watched in shock as Natsu's punch was stopped by Rimuru. Natsu's eyes widened as Rimuru put a hand on his shoulder and grabbed his shirt. He leapt over him and flung Natsu to the end of the field as a thump echoed across the field. Natsu groaned in pain as he stood back up. Natsu gritted his teeth as he charged at Rimuru again. Rimuru dodged him and this time caught his right arm to kick him to the end of the field. Natsu spun back in the air as his hand grazed the ground. Natsu means business, said Marahin. Just look at him. He's smiling, enjoying every second of it, Urza added in Luminous's arms. It's not just Natsu, Love is enjoying every second of the fight too, added Urza's mother. Natsu took advantage of the momentum from Rimuru's kick and leapt into the air while Rimuru watched what he was about to do. Roar of the Fire Dragon! Screamed Natsu as a huge spear of flame came down on Rimuru. He's gotten strong, Rimuru thought. They all watched as Rimuru drew his sword and sheathed it in black flames. The slime disintegrated Natsu's flame with its black flame. Then they both charged at each other, Natsu with a fiery fist and Rimuru with his black flame sword. Natsu, that's enough! Shouted Kana. Grey put a hand protectively in front of her. A cloud of smoke arose and Natsu was flung out of the cloud. A longer fight would be pointless. Natsu, you have lost, said Rimuru as he put away his sword. Don't you dare, whispered Natsu. Don't you dare let your guard down, shouted Natsu. He ran towards the demon lord, but halfway there, Rimuru turned hectically and Luminous jumped beside him. Natsu stopped. What's wrong? Urza asked. I'll see you later, said Rimuru with a smile before his face became serious again. Rimuru and Luminous flew at high speed towards Acnologia. What just happened? Asked a confused Grey. They left, Loke replied. But why? Asked a confused Roy. Did you see their faces? They looked worried. This is the first time I've seen them like that, said Elfman. Urza looked thoughtfully at the sky. If even my mother puts on such a serious face, it must be an important matter. Natsu looked at Urza and then up at the sky. What's got the Dragondemonpaire so upset? They both landed and looked at the devastated landscape. No doubt it was here. Yes, very likely. They continued walking slowly when they heard an earth-shattering roar and ran to the source, leaping over rocks and crevices. What greeted them was a man covered in blood, huddled in a corner, and a black dragon trying to get to him. I will not be defeated by a big old lizard like you, the man shouted. But immediately Gildarts cried out in pain as he was pushed into the rock by the dragon's tail. He roared at him. Its mouth snapped forward to kill Gildarts. However, death magic particles hit Acnologia. Acnologia's attention turned to us. Seal, would death blessing kill Acnologia? Negative, Acnologia has too high a spiritual life expectancy. That's why this ability couldn't kill someone like you or Guy. Rimuru, Luminous? Whispered a shocked Gildarts, get out of here, now. Against Gildarts' advice, Rimuru went straight for Acnologia and activated 50% of his true dragon haki. Acnologia could not face this mighty power and bowed to Rimuru as in the first fight between the two. I apologize for attacking one of your comrades, Lord Rimuru. You don't have to apologize, that's your territory. But curb your destructive rage or you will suffer the consequences. He bowed again hastily. Before he flew away, he just escaped his death. These were the thoughts of Acnologia. He remembered their first fight very well. Even if it was only a game for Acnologia's master. Through the aura of his master, he decided to escape death and submit to this powerful being. You tamed Acnologia. I don't believe it. We should go against. Thereupon they walked down the Zonia mountain in ebbing spirits. How exactly did you tame that thing? Asked Gildarts. Do you remember that I am a true dragon? Gildarts nodded. He probably senses that because I'm much stronger and he has no chance of victory. I guess he decided to serve me instead of running to his death. I see, muttered Gildarts as they walked on. Lumi, can you heal Gildarts' wounds? Gladly. In a split second, Gildarts' severe wounds disappeared. Can't you use your transport ability? Asked Gildarts. No, because we won't be returning to the guild, said Luminous. Why? Asked Gildarts in surprise. The dragons are supposed to have disappeared, but this black dragon, Acnologia. Why is he still there? Is he not obeying the Dragon King's orders? This is the second time I have come face to face with him, said Rimuru thoughtfully. Rimuru, there are things it is better not to know, said Gildarts. Take it from a man who was born and has lived in this world for over 40 years. I see, so you mean that you are indeed old, Rimuru said dryly. Gildarts' eyes widened into chibi eyes. How dare you say that I am old? Cried Gildarts. Love never said anything like that, you implied it yourself, Luminous explained in a monotone voice as Gildarts complained. They soon reached the foot of the mountain as they parted ways. Gildarts looked at the two as he walked. Rimuru, Luminous, thank you, Gildarts said with gratitude in his voice. She just nodded her head as they walked on. I ask you to look after Urza once more, we will return as soon as we have finished our search, and if it proves futile, we will return as soon as possible, Rimuru said. When you return, let me know. Have I made myself clear? Asked Gildarts. Rimuru nodded his head in agreement. 3 months later. Everyone? Gildarts is coming back, shouted Marahan. What, really? Asked Loke, running towards Marahan. I don't believe it. This is awesome, shouted Jet. I can't believe it. When is he coming back? Asked an excited Levy. He wrote in the message he sent that he'll be here in half an hour, Marahan replied. That's fantastic. I'm beating Gildarts this time, exclaimed Natsu. Really? You were defeated by him in one blow, said Grey. What did you say? Are you trying to mess with me? Natsu. Shut up, shouted Grey and slapped him. Already a brawl broke out in the silent halls of Fairy Tale. A lone girl with brown hair thought confusedly that there was a revelation about her. She silently wished it away as she drank a keg of ale. Laxus watched. He had taken up the mantle of the strongest mage after Makarov, since he had heard nothing of Rimuru, Luminous or Gildarts. He had reverted to his old self of weak and strong. He was angry at how soft the guild had become. He did not want to join forces with the weak members of the guild. He had formed a group known as the Thunder Gods Tribe, calling themselves the elite of the guild. Rimuru's and Luminous' departure had also caused him frustration. They had talked nonsense and abandoned their comrades. Laxus did not like that at all. He watched as a scarlet girl walked into the guild. All activity ceased as she arrived. Both Natsu and Gray had ceased their bickering and become solemn. They sat down on one of the guild's tables as everyone made way for her. Marahan, their longtime rival, stopped them though. Urza glared at her. "Urza, Mr. Gildarts is coming back," Marahan said. "I see anything else?" Marahan took out a piece of paper and handed it to her. Ezra took it in her hand and gave her a questioning look. Marahan smiled at her. "This is from Gildarts. In the letter he sent it was specifically addressed to you," Marahan said as she handed Urza the neatly folded piece of paper. Urza took it in her hand and opened it. The contents were neatly written. "Ezra. Forgive us for leaving so suddenly. That day I felt the aura of Aknologia, who was attacking Gildarts. We decided to look for reasons why he was the last dragon seen. We're sorry to let you down again. But we promise to make up for lost time. P.S. Gildarts will explain everything in more detail. Signed, Rimuru." Crushing the note in her hand as she sat down at the bar table, Marahan picked up the crushed note and read it. She gasped and then smiled. She was glad Rimuru and Luminous had contacted her. Urza then decided to wait for Gildarts, then she would get her answer.